Madrid, the capital of Spain, is located in the heart of the Iberian Peninsula and in the center of the Castilian plain. A splendid and monumental city, Madrid today is a combination of modern infrastructure and historic squares, churches, city gates and palaces. The Palacio Real, or Royal Palace, is Madrid's largest building. It's located next to the equally beautiful Plaza de Oriente. The architectural complexes of the royal sites were built for use as places of relaxation, recreation, and as residences for the members of the various Spanish royal families. The palace was built on the site of the old Alcazar, the Moorish castle destroyed by fire in the 18th century. The site had been occupied since the 10th century by the Moors, who, having named the city's Manzanares river Al-Magrit, meaning source of water, referred to the area as Mayrit, which became Majerit, then Madrid. The facades combine two types of material in order to provide chromatic contrast. The most abundant material is granite, which can be found in the bases and on the flat walls. The white limestone of Colmenar de Oreja is used for bases, columns, pilasters, cornices, and so on. The Sabatini Gardens stretch along the northern facade of the Royal Palace. These gardens were created in the 1930s, but followed a design of the 18th century architect who gave the gardens his name. Fountains, hedges and benches are organized in a symmetrical layout in the classic French garden style. Italian architect Francesco Sabatini redesigned many emblematic monuments in Madrid. 44 statues of Spanish monarchs line the square. They range from the Gothic period up to the time when the country was reunified, following the defeat of the Moors in the 15th century. Near the staircase, presiding over the park, is a statue in memory of Carlos III, the monarch who reformed teaching and promoted research and the spread of knowledge. The Plaza de Oriente is a pedestrian square bordering Madrid's royal palace. At the center of the square, on a large pedestal, is a huge statue of King Philip IV, decorated with statues of lions and allegorical figures. Its designer, Pietro Tacca, was afraid that the rearing horse could not be balanced properly. The famous Italian astronomer Galileo Galilei came to his rescue by suggesting that the front rearing part of the sculpture should be hollow and therefore relatively light. During his short reign as king, José I launched a project to open up the east side of the royal palace with the creation of a new square. Madrid is a city with multiple religions and cultures. It offers much in the way of noteworthy religious sites, particularly the huge modern 20th century Almudena Cathedral. The main entrance of the cathedral shows two towers made of granite, which emphasize the presence of the so-called gabarros. Both facades have cornices, bases and capitals of columns, and stone ornamentation carved in Colmenar stone. On the north facade is a sculpture of Nuestra Señora de la Almudena.
Un ritmo, un battito, un eterno
Lacking the architectural merit or historical significance of other European cathedrals, Almudena Cathedral is nonetheless worth a visit due to its uniqueness, modern beauty and sheer size. The facade, with superimposed orders set between two towers, looks onto the Almería Square. The first plans for building a great cathedral in Madrid date from the 16th century. The project was abandoned until 1950, when Fernando Chueca Goita adapted the plans of de Cubas to a Baroque exterior to match the grey and white facade of the Palacio Real. The cathedral has a double dome, which is Gothic inside and Baroque outside. On the dome, the 12 apostles are represented. In front of the cathedral, a place was built that serves as a huge atrium. The massive construction project was long dogged by controversy, not least because of the mixture of styles that resulted from the various modifications of the plans. This impressive monument is located in one of the most beautiful areas of the city. The design of this facade shows some Escorial influence in its monumentality and nudity, broken only by the bronze doors. These works by the sculptor Sanguino represent the discovery of the Virgin de la Almudena by King Alfonso VI of Castile. The cathedral was opened by Pope John Paul II in 1993. The crypt was opened for worship in 1911, but the construction was halted until after the Civil War, when architects Fernando Chueca Goita and Carlos Sidro were placed in charge of the project. The crypt is built in a neo-Romanesque style and is home to a 16th century picture of the Virgin de la Almudena. Where Gran Via meets Calle Princesa lies the Plaza de España, a large square surrounded by two symmetrical skyscrapers. The Spanish capital city has many notable landmarks that astound visitors. Despite being a busy city, it's a lively and beautiful one, especially if you take time to visit a Madrid plaza. Throughout Madrid, the plazas fit well in their Spanish settings. The city of Madrid has many plazas, and Plaza de España is one of the country's prides. The plaza is excellent for a moment of relaxation. The surrounding greenery features the large fountain and significantly the famous monument of Spain, which Miguel de Cervantes Saavedra placed in the center of the plaza. The ingenious Hidalgo Don Quixote by La Mancha is long recognized as one of the best fictional novels ever written. It's fitting that a tribute to the famous Spaniard Cervantes and the iconic character of Don Quixote was created in the square. Sculptor Lorenzo Cuyo Valera created the statues. Federico Cuyo Valera Mendigutia, the son of the original sculptor, completed the monument around 1960. In the south of Europe, where in summer it can get really hot, parks and gardens are a perfect refuge during the hottest time of the day. Throughout the city, one can find many green areas, old and new, big and small, to do sports, walk around, or simply relax. Taking a walk through the city's streets and squares is a great opportunity to spend some time outdoors and soak up the atmosphere. Puente de Segovia, literally the Bridge of Segovia, is the oldest bridge in the Spanish capital. Its 9 ancient arches spread across the Manzanares River. The Puerta de Toledo is a flamboyant granite structure that was started under the Napoleonic government of Joseph Bonaparte. 1 year later, after the withdrawal of the French troops from Spain, the project continued and Puerta de Toledo became the site where Fernando VII was received, as represented on one of the friezes. The monument consists of a central semicircular arch, 2 lintel gates, and a decoration formed by columns, with a set of sculptures high up featuring the city's coat of arms. The Basilica di San Francisco el Grande is among the largest and most famous places of worship in the Spanish capital. The fine neoclassical church in the heart of Madrid boasts one of the most imposing church domes in the world, measuring 33 meters in diameter. Legend goes that St. Francis of Assisi lived in a tent here on his pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela in 1217 and built a small hermitage. Later, they decided to build a bigger church and convent to honor St. Francis, San Francisco. One of the architects involved in the project was Sabatini. The basilica has had a checkered history and was at one time used as an army barracks. It was handed back to the Franciscan order in 1926, and they've since returned it to some of its former glory. In Madrid, there's an extensive array of optional activities that can be enjoyed alongside the stunning scenery, commencing in the heart of the main city and extending to some of its remote vicinities, where unique natural panorama is there to be discovered. Plaza of Puerta Cerrada, which means locked or closed gate, is the place of preference for many of Madrid's popular legends. The reason for this goes back to the days when it was still known for the watchmen who stood guard there over the Christian ramparts. One of the gates was shut because it had become so notorious as the refuge of thieves who lurked in its shadows, hence the name of the present-day square. The plaza with the bright murals at the intersection of the Calle Segovia is called the Puerta Cerrata, named for the entrance to the city that once stood there. Sometimes it's the small things that make a place special. Madrid may be famous for its museums, art galleries and palaces, but keep an eye open for the tiles that decorate its bars and restaurants. They're one of the city's most characteristic traditions and a great way to get yourself thoroughly immersed in Spanish culture. In Plaza Santa Ana, the Andalusian appearance of the Taberna Villarosa has a fresh pastoral feel, like a cool breeze in the middle of the city. The extraordinary tiled facade of the long-standing nightclub is a tourist attraction in itself. Opened in 1914 by some famous picadors, the place used to be the haunt of aristocrats and celebrities and was a centre for the art of flamenco. The walls of Villarosa, which are covered in the most splendidly detailed ceramic tiles called azulejos, feature Andalusian country scenes from the past. Many of the fixtures are made from delicately carved, dark veneered wood. Plaza Santana is in the center of the Barrio de las Letras. Madrid's old narrow streets reveal a mix of old-fashioned plazas, streets and decorated palaces. The city is full of astonishing art galleries, vibrant nightlife and a feast of tapas bars and restaurants. To the west of Santa Ana Square, the unmistakable facade of the Reina Victoria Hotel dominates the square. A statue in the square pays tribute to a great Spanish personality, Federico García Lorca, poet and dramatist. Plaza de Santa Ana, together with the nearby small streets which make up the Huertas district, is one of Madrid's liveliest and most vibrant areas. Many shops selling traditional or typical Spanish items exist around the center of Madrid. There are a great many establishments full of tradition in Madrid. They're family-run businesses whose secrets and good practices in their manufacturing of products have been handed down through various generations, or new businesses that have recovered the old ways. The aesthetically pleasing Teatro Español, the Spanish theatre, borders the Plaza de Santa Ana to the east. Descalzas Reales Monastery is located right in the heart of Madrid and was founded by Juana de Austria, the sister of Philip II. This is a religious building which served as an enclosed convent. Many ladies of the nobility would seek seclusion at this monastery, taking their personal belongings with them. The facade of the church is a fine, austere composition in El Escurial style, crowned by the coat of arms of the founder. Gran Via is one of the streets in Madrid that one simply can't miss out on during a visit to the city. The street features early 20th century architecture and is one of the best shopping centres in the city. It's also surrounded by magnificent and luxurious hotels, as well as huge cinema complexes. This building, designed by Ignacio Cárdenas and the American architect Weeks, was constructed for the Spanish telephone company. Completed in 1929, it was Madrid's first skyscraper. The origins of the Gran Via, often called the Spanish Broadway, date back to a time when the need was felt to link the northwest portion of the city to the historic centre. Several proposals were presented for the Gran Via that was to cross the city. The definitive plan was approved in 1901 and construction began in 1910. Spreading out over 1 kilometre long, this 100-year-old strip is the city's main commercial and leisure avenue. A street that's always buzzing and where sleep is not an option. The Madrilenian's favourite place to be. Although it's a century old, it has a young name, since it's only been known as Gran Via since 1981. Continuing along Cala de Alcala, the walk passes several monumental buildings, all essentially neoclassical. This is the case of the former Madrid Customs Office, currently taken over by the Ministry of Economy and Treasury, or the building accommodating the Royal Academy of Fine Arts of San Fernando. The most recognizable landmark on the street is the Metropolis building. The building is crowned with a magnificent black dome, accentuated with gilded ornaments. It's easy to spot because of the statue of the winged goddess Victory, which sits on the roof. The architects used the typically French Beaux Arts style in their design, with a lavish facade decorated with statues, pillars and ornaments. The facade is decorated with festoons and small foliated windows. During the 19th century, the whole of Europe experienced the arrival of a new architectural style that prompted old cities to grow at full speed. Although Madrid was one of the last capitals to accept the boom of modernity, it finally gave in to the invasion of new urban centres. The so-called Castro Plan and his urban development plan for Madrid from 1860 conceived large rectangular blocks that would meet the city's need for new neighbourhoods. It was Madrid's first major urban development plan and attempted to organise the city by means of a large avenue designed using a straight-line layout. Madrid has a varied schedule of theatrical performances and many opera houses. One of the most remarkable theatre venues in Madrid is Teatro Alcázar. Las Calatravas Church is a good example of Madrilenian Baroque style. It's always interesting to walk along the street and look to the rooftops of these impressive buildings, since many of them are lavishly decorated and often possess large statues, sometimes precariously perching on the ledge of the roof. This square is dedicated to José Canalejas, Prime Minister in 1910. Here, there are some great buildings owned by banks which wanted to show off their wealth in order to make people trust them. If they had money to build these buildings, it meant they were capable of looking after people's money. The Casa de Don Tomás de Allende was built from 1917 to 1920. Madrid Palace in the Plaza de las Cortes is a Renaissance building with a marvelous neoclassical portal in its main facade. The Congress building is the seat of the Spanish Parliament. This was constructed on the site of the Church of the Espíritu Santo. The project by architects Pascual and Colomer has a design inspired by 15th century Italian palaces, with the addition of a Corinthian portico with classical front in order to set off the facade. The Puerta de Atocha station was the first railway station in Madrid, inaugurated by Isabel II in 1851. The original building was destroyed by fire, and the current station dates back to 1892. It was designed by the architect Palacio, who conceived two brick pavilions crowned by a huge iron and glass roof over the lines and platforms. Its last expansion under Rafael Moneo was completed in 1992, the year when Spain hosted both the Olympics in Barcelona and Seville's Universal Exhibition. The immense greenhouse in the station is unique in the world. The part of the station housing the greenhouse dates back to 1851. It was painstakingly restored as part of the 1992 expansion and adapted to host a simply amazing urban jungle. Covering the area from the Plaza de Neptuno to Atocha, the Paseo del Prado can be considered the heart of aristocratic and institutional Madrid, a stunning mix of formal gardens, wild areas and fountains. The Paseo del Prado has been an important rendezvous for strolls and meetings since medieval times, when it was a leafy haven on the outskirts of the city, with vegetable gardens irrigated by a stream running from the north to the south of the city. In the square currently dedicated to Cánovas del Castillo, visitors find the fountain dedicated to Neptune. The Prado Museum is one of the most prestigious art galleries in the world. It's a fine neoclassical building with 6 large Doric columns recalling a Greek temple. In front of the museum is the statue of Diego de Velázquez, who moved to Madrid and became court painter of Felipe IV for the rest of his life. Velázquez's paintings are characterized by his unique use of perspective. In addition to its extraordinary art center, the museum has a magnificent collection of classical sculptures, vases and medallions on the facade. Spanish neoclassicism peaked with the figure of Juan de Villanueva, who adapted Burke's achievements of the sublime and beauty to the requirements of Spanish climate and history. He built the Prado Museum, which combined 3 programs: an academy, an auditorium and a museum, in one building with 3 separate entrances. The historical church San Jerónimo el Real is located in the very heart of Madrid, just steps away from the Prado Museum. Originally built in the 15th century on the banks of the Manzanares River, the convent was moved to its current venue in 1503, retaining all of its architectural features. From an architectural point of view, San Jerónimo el Real is interesting with its Gothic exterior, the newly added towers and the valuable stained glass windows. The bas-relief on the main entrance was done by Ponciano Ponzano. Madrid is a city with numerous convents and churches, home to works by famous local artists which are a faithful reflection of the city's Catholic tradition. The geographical location of the region of Madrid led to various different peoples making their settlements there over the ages. Casón del Buen Retiro forms part of the Prado Museum today, but began life as a ballroom for the Buen Retiro Palace. It's the only building which remains of this old palace and grounds, which were built for the Conde Duque de Olivares during the reign of Felipe IV. Plaza de Cibeles is one of the finest squares in Madrid, and as a result of its beauty, it's managed to become a major symbol of the city. The imperial majesty of Spain's capital city is on display in this busy plaza, with buildings such as the Palacio de Comunicaciones and the Banco de España, figuring among the most architecturally appealing structures in the entire city. One of the other buildings that architectural buffs enjoy checking out on a visit to the Plaza de Cibeles is the Banco de España. Work on this colossal edifice started back in 1884, and several additions were made over the years, with the last expansion occurring in 1975. Spain's central bank has its headquarters here in this large building, which has a healthy amount of gold stored underground. Palacio de Comunicaciones is the architectural crown jewel in Plaza de Cibeles. Built between 1904 and 1917, this former post office headquarters is now the city's official city hall. Almost palatial, the Palacio de Comunicaciones has Gothic and Renaissance features, as well as an overall Belle Époque style. The Alcalá Gate is one of the most photographed monuments in the capital. It's one of Madrid's most important landmarks and has been associated with the history of the city since the 18th century. The ornaments that adorn the gate include cornucopia reliefs in friezes around the archways. Finally, the royal coat of arms and supporting figures are the work of Francisco Gutiérrez. An inscription that runs along both sides and the upper part of the monument reads Regge Carlo III. For the Puerta de Alcalá, Sabatini designed a structure comprising 5 archways, 3 half-point arches in the centre, with an architrave arch at each end. The openings themselves are flanked by a total of 10 columns, standing on bases with modern Ionic capitals and crowned with a decorated cornice. The Park del Buen Retiro is one of the most famous parks to see in the city. The park is a wonderful oasis of calm. Its 130 hectares of woodland form a green island of more than 15,000 trees in the middle of an asphalt sea. Historically, the park was built by King Felipe IV as a retreat for the royal family. In the past, the park could be seen outside the city wall, but today, Madrid has enclosed the entire part of Retiro Park. As in any self-respecting park, the Buen Retiro has its share of beautifully designed fountains. The Galapagos Fountain was created to honor the birth of Isabel II and is also one of the more notable artistic works in the park. The first ever mention of this park goes back to the era of the Catholic kings, who were Spain's first kings after the Reconquesta's unification of all Spanish provinces. A part of the area was used as royal lodgings called the quarters, which then turned into the temporary royal household. Under Felipe II, it became a place for taking a break from court life, as well as to enjoy religious retreat. It owes its present name to the latter use. The Retiro Park, which has come down to us today, features a large statue of Alfonso XII, in the place where the old pier, used in Filippo IV's time, used to stand, hovering over the pond. The statue consists of a large columned walk surrounding the statue of the monarch mounted on a horse. The ensemble also features a series of allegorical works devoted to the fatherland, peace, liberty, the army and the navy. The monument was commissioned by the Queen Regent, Maria Cristina, and the whole ensemble was begun after Alfonso XIII ascended to the throne. The monument to Alfonso XII is one of the most beautiful man-made additions to the green expanse that's Retiro Park. Throughout its history, the park has boasted a number of whimsical structures whose existence was solely for the amusement of the passerby. Dedicated to culture are the two pavilions built by Ricardo Velázquez Bosco towards the end of the 19th century, the Velázquez Palace and the Crystal Palace, which is one of the best examples of ironwork architecture in Madrid. The Palacio de Cristal, in the shape of a Greek cross, is made almost entirely of glass, set in an iron framework on a brick base. Its domed roof makes the structure over 22 meters high. It originally housed a collection of exotic plants and now houses many temporary exhibitions that are held in the city. The entrance door, which is in the Ionic style, takes the place of one of the arms of the cross. In front of this door lies a lake, surrounded by vegetation. Water was a distinguishing trait of the garden from the outset. The great pond, which served as the setting for mock naval battles and other aquatic displays, the great canal, the narrow channel, the chamfered or bellflower pond, created the basic layout of the gardens. Madrid is one of the cities with the highest levels of pollution, but it's also considered a green city, with more than 250,000 hectares of parks and beautiful historic gardens. The bull world is not just about bullfights. There's a whole range of traditions and customs to introduce tourists to a world inhabited by bullfighters, stock breeders, bullfighting critics and enthusiasts. Madrid's main bull ring is called La Plaza de Toros de las Ventas del Espíritu Santo, or more simply, Las Ventas. Built in the Mudéjar style, this impressive building is made of red brick and ceramic tiles. Plaza de Toros de las Ventas was designed and constructed in the Mozarabic style by the architect Espelli. Features of Mozarabic architecture include horseshoe-shaped arches and ribbed domes. This building also features pottery representations of the heraldic shields of all the different Spanish provinces. The Moorish style features more than just horseshoe arches and intertwining patterns. Elaborate decoration, Intricate mosaic work and ornate ceiling carvings also play their part, as do the regal surroundings. In Spain, it was and remains the architectural heritage and style of the Moors, first introduced from northwest Africa 1,300 years ago. The beautiful and striking essence of Moorish architecture remains and continues to be a template for property builders and developers in the area. Bullfighting has been depicted by Goya in his tapestries, Picasso in his prints, Lorca in his poems, and Almodovar in his films. Some people find it hard to conceive Spain's culture without bullfighting, a spectacle that's been celebrated in Spain since time immemorial and that's part of the country's idiosyncrasy. First-time spectators are bound to enjoy their experience at a bull ring, simply for the impressiveness of the show. However, those who'd like to understand a bit more about this tradition need to familiarize themselves with the bullfighting code, for these fights abide by a very strict set of rules. Flamenco, Spanish operetta and bullfighting are present even in Madrid's most avant-garde events. In Madrid, taking a walk in El Rastro flea market, going to a bullfight, attending a procession, going to watch a zarzuela, and taking part in public debates, a tradition so deep-rooted that it's hard to figure out quite when they date back to. Puerta del Sol is more than just the metaphorical heart of Madrid. It is really at the city's center. A beautiful 18th century red brick building, the Casa de Correos, was erected as the city's main post office, following a design by the French architect Jacques Marquet. The clock tower was added later. The plaza's name originates from the Eastern City Gate, located here in the 15th century. The gate was probably named after a sun drawn on it, hence the name Puerta del Sol, or Sun Gate. In the middle of Puerta del Sol is a large equestrian statue of King Carlos III, placed here in 1997. The king looks out on the Casa de Correos. The Puerta del Sol is also the location of the most famous symbol of Madrid, a 20-ton statue of a bear eating fruits from a tree. The official name of the statue is El Oso y el Mandroño. El Escorial was the historical home of the King of Spain a long time ago, but currently has become the residence to an order of monks. It's situated in the northwest of the city. It's been developed into a beautiful and interesting attraction, not only in this capital city of Spain, but to the entire country. The El Escorial was specially made by King Felipe II as a tribute to Spain's devout Catholic devotion. This encompasses two architectural complexes, the San Lorenzo de El Escorial itself and the Granjilla de las Fresneda. This shows the historical and cultural significance it possessed, besides featuring a brilliant collection of art. The highlights of the huge complex contain the marble Pantheon de los Reyes, the tomb of Spain's kings and their families, and the elegant basilica. This ensemble today, constructed of bluish granite from Guadarrama, was begun in 1563 by Juan Bautista de Toledo and completed in 1584 by Juan de Herrera. The period of its construction corresponded to the years of the Catholic Reformation after the Council of Trent, and the building's astonishing severity and sobriety were indicative of both the religious spirit of Spain and of Philip II's own fervent Catholicism. The name King's Courtyard is derived from the 6 large statues of the monarchs of Judah that decorate the temple facade. The facade of the basilica is an immense unadorned wall of granite with 2 towers at the ends. Over its history, the Escorial has had a variety of functions. Part monastery, part royal palace, part museum, part mausoleum, it's also served as a shrine, a school, and home to one of the world's greatest libraries. The vast building, with its thousands of rooms, is surrounded by legend, much of it linked to the mysterious character of Philip, the most powerful monarch of his time. The world-renowned city was declared a historical and artistic monument in 1971. 13 years later, in 1984, UNESCO recognized it as a World Heritage Site.